step number 60 again. I have faith. Open your bag F. We are moving on to step number 61. And for step number 61, I've gone ahead and pre-installed the nuts into 2 units of the transmission mounting braces. I'm going to set those aside and use them a little bit later on. We're going to go forward here and build our lay shaft. The lay shaft has a flat portion here with a retainer clip. That's where our spur gear is going to go. And then we have this area that has a hole in it, this end that has a hole in it, and then a place for our stud, which is right here. We are going to take our stud and slip it through until it's centered, as close as we can get it. Then we're going to take our 19-tooth gear, and it's the same on both sides, so it doesn't matter how it drops on. We're going to slide that over the top of the shaft and rotate it until it slides on. And you can use either set of the notches in there, and it's going to drop down. And there's a little groove that goes around right at the edge of the gear, and that's where we're going to put our little C-clip. These are fun to get on also. So, give you the general idea. It slips on right like that. And let's grab don't see my proper pliers, so we'll use this one here. I can't really do this on film that easily, but we're going to snap that little puppy right in there. There we go. You're going to want to inspect it, make sure that it is properly on. See if we can focus in on this. You can see that C-clip is right here. Now that that's in, we're going to secure the pin. You can see the pin down in through the center here. We're going to secure the pin with this screw. And we're going to use a bit of Loctite on it. We're going to use red on this one. And that's going to go down in through the top. And we're going to snug it down. Okay, we have built our lay shaft, and that concludes step number 62. There's a little bit of play in there, which is okay. You just want to make sure that it is completely secured on with the rod on the bottom and the C-clip on the top, and secured with your bolt. Go ahead and get all your parts laid out for step number 63, and we're going to build the transmission. Step number 63, we're going to go ahead at this point and put all of our stuff into the transmission and get the transmission up and going. First thing is, if you are using the Team FastEddy bearings, let's go ahead and swap out the bearings. And we'll move forward. Let's see now, where are we going to start? There's 2 halves to the transmission case. There is the half labeled 2 and the half labeled 1. The half labeled 2, if you look at this area right here, is rounded, and the half labeled 1 has a little star pattern on it there. So according to the directions, we are going to start off with this unit right here, which is unit 2. Let's grab our case plug, which is this unit right here, and insert that into the upper portion here. It just slides in. From there, we're going to take one of our smaller bearings and press it in. It should slide all the way in. It's going to look like that. Now, let's take our gear. Let's slide our bearings down inside the gear. Before we do that, we're going to use just a small amount of red Loctite, just like we did on the diff. I'm going to put just a little bit on the inside here, just to hold that bearing in. Don't need a whole bunch. Shouldn't take too much to get those in. They slide in like that. And we'll drop the bearing. How's that? We're going to drop this assembly over this portion here. Just slides right in. Now things start to get fun and fall all over the place. Let's take our lay shaft and slide the portion that is on the gear side into the bearing that we put in the top here. Drops in just like that. And I keep turning stuff just to make sure that it's not binding, because if it does bind, then we know we have a problem. And we can look back and figure out what it is. Let's take the second half, and we're going to insert the bearing into the top. Sometimes they go even easier than other times. Going to make sure that it's fully seated in, and generally that's when it's flush around the edge. You can see that from the outside. Now we are going to hold this part in our hand, and I like to cup my hand, and you'll see why in just a moment. And we need to take one of our braces and drop the brace down into this corner here, just like so. You need to do that before we put in our diff half. When you put in the diff half, you want to take the portion that does not have the screw heads on it. You see, the side has the screw heads, this side does not. And we're going to drop the screw head side down. Very simply, set it in. You're going to push down until that bearing seats. And at this point, you can see that all the gears should be properly meshed up and aligned, and everything turns. This is what it's going to look like. Take our second brace, slide that in. And now we're going to lube up the transmission. It's always fun trying to set this thing down. We'll set it down like this. How's that? That way everything still spins. You can use the heavy-duty grease that comes with your Baja. However, this is an assembly grease and is fairly creamy and doesn't have a lot of tacky components to it, so it tends to fly off the gears. You can use it and you'll be okay with it. However, we do have the Team FastEddy dog bone and transmission grease that we use. It's extremely tacky and does not come off. What we're going to do is several ways to do this. I'm just going to take this shaft here, put it down into the grease. You don't really need a whole bunch of this grease. So I'm just going to put some on there. Don't need a whole lot. You're going to use quite a bit more if you're using the factory grease. I'm going to put this back in, and I'm going to spin this around. See if I can do this on camera. And it's going to start to distribute that grease in the gears. And the more you spin it, the more it's distributed. You can see it's starting to distribute on the gears there. With the Team FastEddy grease, you really don't need a whole lot. With the grease that you use, if you're using the assembly grease, you're going to want to use about 3 to 4 times this much. Still not happy. I want to put just a little bit more on there. So I'm going to take my gear back out. Put just a little bit more on there. And redistribute it. There we go. You can see how tacky that is. Now that we have our diff installed along with all the gears and everything into our transmission, I'm going to go ahead and seal it up. Grab the other half, slide that portion over the lay shaft and this portion over the diff. We're going to want to make sure that our braces are being properly captured, and it should all just slide together. What you want to make sure of is that you're not pinching anything and that the case pretty much goes together all the way around without any bows in it or having to force it. You're going to turn your transmission again and make sure that there's no binding. There's 5 screws that we're going to use, and they're going to go into the beveled areas on this half of the case. If you take a look on the other half, there's nowhere to put them, so you can't make a mistake. And we're going to go ahead and install the screws. They are self-tapping screws, so don't over-tighten them. See, building the diff in the transmission is not that bad. I get a lot of people that contact me and they're just intimidated by it. And there's really no reason to be. It's just all very, very procedural. It does look like there's a lot of stuff going on inside there, and there is, but it's just mechanical. Alright, we're almost done here. The next thing that we're going to do is to put the brake hub on in step number 64. One more screw. So at this point, go ahead and get the 3 remaining pieces, which should be in your bucket out of your last bag. There should be no more leftover pieces. So, ladies and or gentlemen, or both, or whatever you are, we now have a transmission. Make sure it spins freely. No binding. Should be a little bit of resistance from the bearings and the grease. Also make sure that your diff action is working properly. Peer down through the bottom. Make sure that your nuts on those little braces are lined up. And we're ready to go. You may see a little bit of separating on the gearbox here. That's okay. When we slip it into the rear, it's going to pinch that and keep it sealed up.